radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Oh, yeah. How you doing? Fade to Black. Yeah. Tuesday, April 29th, 2025. Let's do this, man. Yeah. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Great week on the show. It's a short week for me this week. Last night, Vivian Chavez was with us. Tonight, it's Eric Mintel and jazz musician. But we're going to be doing ghost, UFOs, and cryptids because he's also a paranormal investigator. And then tomorrow night is our once-a-month AMA-AJA Ask Jimmy Anything. That's right, talking about myself in the third person. Ego coming into play, but that's going on tomorrow night because Thursday we're off air. That's right. I'm heading to the Midwest for the Contact Modalities Expo, the first of 4 major events that I have coming up over the next couple of months. And it's this weekend, May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in Delavan, Wisconsin at Delavan Lake. The links are below. I think they have some ticket specials available for Sunday, too, as well. Great lineup of speakers, lots of events. I'm hosting. I'm going to do a presentation, too, as well. And so I'll see everybody in Wisconsin this weekend. I come back from that for Contact in the Desert, and that's May 29th through June 2nd, right here in Southern California, in Palm Springs, California. Then I go to Peru right after that for the Inca Celebration of the Sun with Brian Forrester. The first of 2 tours in Peru this year that we are doing. This one is in June, and June 17th through the 27th. Then the next one is in November. Okay, so links for that are below at hiddenincatours.com. And come down, see Peru. It'll change your life. I say it every single night. Peru is just insane. It is a paradigm shift. And so the links for that are below. I come back from that, back to the States for the Psy Games, August 1st through the 3rd, 2025 in Charlottesville, Virginia. I'm a game show host for the Psychic Olympics, August 1st through the 3rd. Yeah, I'm serious too about this. I am going to I'm gonna sequin a tux. Maybe gold lame, like Elvis in the 50s. Do I do that, or do I do like the Elvis comeback special and go in black leather? Man, but it's going to be cool. It's going to be epic, and that is August 1st through the 3rd, 2025. And so there you go. Now, I want to get straight to this tonight. We have Eric Mintel with us, and this is what's funny. I mean, funny to me, maybe not as funny to you. Musicians and artists, there is something about the paranormal and being creative. He is a professional jazz musician, which means, as everybody knows, when I have a musician on the show, we're going to talk some music tonight. And we'll start off there. We're going to end in the paranormal. But he's had his ghost encounters. He's had his UFO sightings and dealing with cryptids all across the United States. He goes out and he investigates. And what got him into this? He's got a book out too as well. It's called Casebook Investigations. He's been doing this for a long time, over 10 years, but a jazz musician for 30 years with the Eric Mintel Quartet, which I love, by the way. We're going to get to that. He's performed at the White House, the Kennedy Center, and the United Nations. His links are below, and I would like to welcome for the first time to Fade to Black, Eric Mintel. Eric, wow.
Jimmy, How you doing,
How
man?
cool? How cool is this? How cool is this? You know,
It's awesome. And I say black leather Elvis comeback special. Definitely wear that. So
I cannot. That is one thing. I watch a lot of stuff over and over again. Okay, I do. And sometimes you go, okay, all right. I watch that all the time, and it's the first time. Every time I watch, yeah.
I mean, there's only one Elvis, man. I mean, that's the king. It's incredible.
Let's talk music first. Let's do that. When and speaking of somebody like Elvis, in today's world, and I love creativity, man. I've got a drum machine right here. Okay, I've got all the software. I've got a beautiful studio. I've got a rehearsal studio at the other end of the house. I've got a drum set in there, bass rig, guitar rig, PA system, lights, and everything. The live band is something that I hear immediately, as opposed to somebody's artistic freedom taken with electronic stuff, which is fine. It's just another canvas. I get that. But when you watch something like the Elvis comeback special, drummer playing on a suitcase, right?
Yeah, literally.
Live. No mistakes are allowed. Mistakes happen, they're included, and that's the vibe. But those guys, and that's an example of that. You go back and you look at something like, I don't want to just pick on old school things like Frank Zappa or Frank Sinatra, right? Okay, playing live. But you also had, Led Zeppelin or, all Black Sabbath playing live is something that happens.
Oh, man. Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing with jazz. I mean, that jazz is really the last art form that you're free to improvise, where, you may have the melody that you're playing, but it's, from that point on after that, I've always been a melodic player. So, and my mentor in jazz was Dave Brubeck. I'm sure you're familiar with, and he was a jazz icon, had the first gold record in jazz with Take Five and Blue Rondo a la Turk. But a lot of that, what we do is we'll state the melody and then we're creating on the spot. And that's what improvisation is. And what we're doing tonight, it's improvisation. We're going back and forth, talking about different topics, and it's a beautiful thing. And that's where you're going to see in a jazz setting that creative freedom on the spot. And the guys,
you want to hear a crazy ass but true Dave Brubeck story?
I'd love to hear it.
First hand Dave Brubeck story. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
I'm ready.
All right. I'm 21 years old. And I have a friend. Her name is Andrea Zamparelli, here in Southern California, in Pasadena. And she invites me, and I met her through her father, Mario Zamparelli. Mario's an artist. I was an artist back then. And so he introduces me to her daughter, his daughter. And one day she calls me up. She goes, come to our house for pizza and wine. I'm like, okay, I'm down. Nice house in San Marino. And we sit and we're having pizza. And then he tells me this story because we were talking about music. And this is what he says. Now I'm going to paraphrase. I'm going to shorten it down a little bit, but it's frigging mind blowing. He goes, I'm in France. I'm writing for the Army newspaper. And the name of my column for the Army newspaper, Stars and Stripes, is called Take Five. Okay. He says, we're in France. It's raining. And I'm always looking for musicians to play at behind the lines, R&R. And so I was always looking for somebody, and I'm walking through the rain and I hear somebody playing piano at the bandstand in the rain. And I walked up, and it's an upright piano with the lid and the rain coming in. But this guy is playing and he's blowing my mind. And I walked up and I said, hey, I need a piano player to play this weekend for the troops. And he goes, okay. And he goes, what's your name? Private David Brubeck, sir. Good to meet you. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening to the story from Mario, right? And I'm going, this is bullshit. I'm not buying it, right? So him and Brubeck become friends. And after we're like best friends. And then after the war, Brubeck comes back to the States, signs his record deal, and names his first album Take 5 in tribute to his friend Mario. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, no, I'm not buying it. It turned out to be a true story. Is that nuts?
Wild. It's wild. Well, Dave, his band in the Army, he was in Patton's Army. And, the Red Cross girls came up. Dave was ready to go on. He was in the infantry. He was ready to go out there and go into combat. But the Red Cross girls came in and said they need a piano player. Dave raised his hand right away.
Yeah. Now I just told you Mario's version of the story. You've got the Red Cross girls version of the story. So we need to meet somewhere in the middle, right?
Well,
but it's a true story.
But that very well could be, because he probably heard Dave with them while he was doing these different concerts all over. And it's funny because Take 5 was not written by Dave. It was written by his saxophone player, Paul Desmond. Dave said, what can we name this? And Paul said, Take 5. Well, Paul was also, in the Army as well, but not in the same unit. And Dave said, Take 5. And the whole story behind that was like, well, that's a crazy title. Why are we going to call it Take 5? And Paul said, well, that's what people do. They take a break, take 5. And then Dave thought, okay. So, but I don't doubt that, because there are stories with Brubeck that are there. They are mind blowing. I mean, it's amazing. And Dave was just such a great guy. I mean, he was not only a phenomenal musician, he was a great human being. He was great. He was for the civil rights. He did a lot of good stuff for the civil rights movement. Did a lot of religious works later on in life. Classical, jazz, and just crossed over a lot of different, but brought a lot of people together through the music. And that's what I learned from Dave. I learned a lot of life lessons from him, as far as work ethic, and being a working jazz musician, like in this business, in this day and age with jazz, you've got to work 24/7, to be able to make it. But that's one of the other reasons why
you bring up a good point. It was always that way too, as well. And I'm just going to say it. Paul Desmond, Dave Brubeck, 2 white guys.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and Desmond, so stoic, the way always, the best suits, and this look, and they had groove.
Oh yeah.
Everything on Take 5 of just, and it started. Okay. But let me ask you about this. Then we'll get to the paranormal, everybody. I have a favorite era of jazz, which is certainly for me the bebop, quartet, sextet era of the 50s going on into the 60s. The whole Blue Note, Atlantic, that whole thing. Yeah. I listen to it constantly. And there is something about that. All those guys were starving. All those guys were struggling, going to Paris and coming back and trying to get, but there is a complexity that we all admire. But yet when you see and hear it, they make it look so frigging simple. Bird made it look effortless. Coltrane, all those guys. All
those guys, and it's amazing too, because my saxophone player, Nelson Hill, his teacher was Phil Woods, and Phil Woods from Springfield, Massachusetts, and he was all part of that era. And I, got a chance to meet him backstage at a concert. I got a chance to meet Dave several times, Dave Brubeck, at concerts, and I think back in 1990 or something like that. I'm like this guy, going, Dave, I've got a tape of my music. I want you to hear it. And and Dave was just so great. He took that and he sent me a letter back, probably, maybe a month later, sent it back to me saying that he listened to the tape. He really liked it. But that started a whole written correspondence friendship for at least 15 years. And it was amazing. I mean, I have letters from him, Christmas cards. He would send me all kinds of stuff, like handwritten notation. So I was one of Dave's main guys as far as the music goes, because I would see him and he'd go, "You play my music better than I play it." So, and I'm pretty much self-taught player. I took maybe a year's worth of lessons back in the 80s. And that's how I found Dave Brubeck. I found Take Five and Blue Rondo, and I just had this instant connection with the music. And I'm an only child, so we didn't really have much of anything, except we had a piano in the house. It was somewhat in tune, but I found that record in my parents' record collection when I was around 14. And I was listening to Elvis, and I was listening to Ray Charles and all these rhythm and blues things, but I found Brubeck's music, and that just something, when you hear something, you have that, it just snaps, and you have that epiphany of like, this is what I want to play. And I didn't even know it was jazz. It was called jazz at the time. And I made a recording of Blue Rondo, and I put that on a tape recorder, and I put that down on the piano with me, and I played that, and then played it on the piano, listened to it, played it back. And I didn't even know I was transcribing at that time, but that's what it was called. So, and I did that, but most of the time now, just being in the field for so long, the guys that are in my group now, we've been together over 20 years. And I say we've been together longer than most marriages. So it's, and we still like each other.
I did the same thing. My dad, jazz musician, still is. And so I grew up, that's what he did. He was in the Army band. Okay.
Oh, cool.
So, for 33 years. So that's how I grew up. But I'd go through his albums, and he was a big Ray Charles guy.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't realize Ray Charles cranked out albums like that, but one day I find Kind of Blue, stashed in there, and I pull it out. I love the cover, right? Look at my logo, Fade to Black, right?
Oh yeah.
That's the Kind of Blue album cover. There's a reason why that's done that way. Anyway.
Yep.
I put that on and I listened to it, and I got sucked in. I was like 10 years old, 11.
Yep. Yep.
And Miles freaked me out. He freaked me out. His trumpet spoke to me. And then like today, still, Kind of Blue, and that 1950s thing with him was amazing. But Sketches of Spain takes me there.
Oh yeah.
Takes me there.
Yep.
It's just an incredible thing.
Now, that's a beautiful thing with jazz. You could you go into another place, listening to this, because it's something that, you hear. I always say that, you've got rap artists, right? So the rap of today was the jazz of then, the 100%. Rap artist, right? It's like the rap artists today, they're improvising notes, but that's what the jazz musicians were doing back in the 60s. They're kind of crying out their soul through the music. And if like you, me, people that get that, they get it, then they're hooked, and then they're fans, and it's a beautiful thing, man.
Well, okay, this is where we're going to take this into the paranormal. I am convinced that I have the ability, and so does everybody else, that appreciates music, but I have the ability to understand the brain and the consciousness of the musician and what they're trying to say. And when you go into the mind of some of that Blue Note stuff, you can hear the nightmare, the sadness, the anguish, sometimes happy. It's not doesn't get too happy, but there is voodoo, like this element of thing where, and if you just let it go, you're getting into the torment of these musicians, and in most cases are improvising from the heart.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is, that musicians, artists too, painters, sculptors, are able to tap into the zone, that other world, that other dimension they're susceptible to it. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, no, that's beautifully put. I think it's just because it's being a creative individual, with jazz and music, right? It's about people, places, and things. I think that's a big part of it, and look, Jimmy, everybody's got a story, man. Everybody's got a story. And I don't care who they are. They've had some kind of traumatic thing happen in their life, relationships, whatever. And that's what comes out through the music. And it's a healing. Also, I think jazz, I'm going to just speak for jazz, that jazz is a good music. It's a healing music. It's good medicine. It's like, sometimes I could be having a crappy day, but go to the piano and play some jazz. I'm feeling great, because I've gotten in that zone. And then playing with the guys in the quartet, we'll do things that, sometimes we're like, wow, where the hell did that come from? And it's just something that is it is paranormal in that sense, because we've played so much together over the years. It's like we're almost reading each other's minds. And there's an electricity that goes on between everybody. My drummer and I will hit the same rhythmic thing at the same time. And we'll like look at each other because everybody's listening. All the senses are going at the same time. Right, it's not like not like a rock concert. It's a whole different thing. With jazz, there's a form involved, and with rock and other forms of music there is too. But there's a certain form that we're following in jazz, and and if you're following that, and then the bass player and the drummer, they're like this. They keep this for you, and the saxophone player and I, we're able to go like this over top of that. So that's where the improv. So if they keep straight like this, it's like a sine wave, and we're able to play over top of that, underneath it. But you could go way out and then you could come back home again, as we say. But it's a lot of fun, man. I mean, just there's some nights that we've been like, wow.
Yeah, I can appreciate when I hear somebody's solo where they are taking us into the dreamscape.
Yeah.
I can feel that. And sometimes it reminds me of Spinal Tap. D minor, the saddest of all keys. Right.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Right.
Don't get them started on jazz though.
Yeah. Man, their jazz quotes are some of the best. Their jazz quotes are the best. But I've had so many musicians on this show, and I love it when I do. And every one of them has an experience or two that they want to share. Do you know Jennifer Batten?
I don't.
She was the guitar player for Michael Jackson. She had the big blonde hair, right?
Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Incredible guitar player, just not of this earth kind of thing. And I'm on the phone with her. I had her on the show, but I was on the phone with her, and she goes, "So Jimmy, I'm just going to tell you, I was on my way to Contact in the Desert. Okay, that was a trip." I said, "Okay, to see you." I said, "Okay." She goes, "And I saw this formation of black triangles in the air from the freeway." And she's telling me about the entire experience. And she goes, I just don't get it, why I see these things, but I can't talk about them. But they come on this show and it just floods out. And it just seems, you know what I mean? That
yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, you're giving people an outlet. And look, the government's saying now, hey folks, the UFOs you're seeing are real. We just don't know what they are. So they're giving people now an opportunity to not have that stigma. I mean, 10, 15 years ago, would we even be talking about this stuff as freely as we are now? So I think it's like, that's why they come on your show and telling you, and you're giving them an outlet to do that, because most of the people that are listening to your show are like-minded people, they've had other experiences. I mean, it's been amazing. I mean, some of the stuff that we've had, I could just give you a thumbnail sketch of what we've gone through if you want to.
Yeah, I would love to hear it.
Well, I mean, I'll just give you like a real quick. Everybody knows as I'm a jazz musician, and I've been most of my life, but I've always loved the paranormal. And we live here in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, which is about 60 miles northeast of Philadelphia. And there's a lot of history here. Those Washington crossed the Delaware just down the road. Just a lot of really great history here. A lot of ties to the Underground Railroad, a lot of ghost stories, and UFOs. We had a huge UFO flap here. So I've always loved that, and I've always been a filmmaker. I was always, love editing and whatnot. So in 2016, I decided, look, I was looking at all these wonderful paranormal shows that are on TV, and I was looking at that, and I said, man, I could do something like that. So long story short, I started Eric Mintel Investigates. Originally, it was called Bucks County Paranormal Investigations, but I changed it to Eric Mintel Investigates because we were getting called to do all kinds of different investigations all over the country. So one of the craziest things that I'm going to fast forward now. In 2017, my buddy Dominic Sattel, who's our team member, we've known each other since high school. And we used to practice martial arts and all kinds of stuff back in high school. We actually were making a self-defense, martial arts self-defense video for women back in like 1990, when Jean-Claude Van Damme was all that big rage back then. But anyway, and then we lost touch. 29 years kind of went by. He got married. I got married, divorced, married, and then got divorced again. But then we got back together in 2017. And he said, hey, I might be good for your show because I'm a spirit medium. I'm like, what? And I never knew this. I never knew this about him because back in the 80s and early 90s, it was like stigma to even say anything like that. So he didn't say anything. He never even talked about it in high school to anybody. So I said, yeah, man, let's, that would be wonderful. So that's why when we go on these investigations, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll keep all that paranormal history to myself. Anything that's going on in a certain location, if we're in a bed and breakfast or a restaurant, or we're hunting Bigfoot in the New Jersey Pine Barrens, or the Beast of Bray Road in Elkhorn, Wisconsin. Most of the stuff, like hunting the cryptids, is kind of totally out of his wheelhouse. And I don't have those spirit medium feelings like he does, like to go into an area and feel what's there. I don't have that. So that's why I'll keep all of that to myself and then watch where he goes into those hot spots when we're shooting video. But one of the craziest things we ever did, and we're still wrapping our heads around it, a couple of things, is in 2021, we did...
You started to talk about something in 2017.
Well, no, 2017, that's when Dominic came back into the mix.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay.
And then we did some local investigations and whatnot. But in 2021, a good friend of ours, Ellen Collins, out in Elkhorn, Wisconsin, she had said to me, and she said, you guys should do a video on the Beast of Bray Road. And I'm like, I've heard about that. And I didn't really put too much into it. But I said, yeah, that would be kind of a cool story. I know Linda Godfrey wrote a lot about the Beast of Bray Road, great writer, and really brought this creature back to prominence in the early 90s. But having done some research, it's literally been around since like the 30s. So it's been around for a long time. So I said to Ellen, I said, well, listen, man, I would love to do that. But I'm in Pennsylvania, you're in Wisconsin. How are we going to do this? And so anyway, she paid the whole freight for us to go out there and do this video, me to edit it. So I made her the executive producer on this album, on this video, and she's phenomenal. So we went out there in October 2nd through the 4th of 2021, and Elkhorn, Wisconsin, southern Wisconsin. We went to the farm of a gentleman by the name of Lee Hampel. Lee, this is crazy, Jimmy, how this whole thing came about, man. I had seen Lee on a program called Paranormal Declassified, and he was talking about the Beast of Bray Road, all of these, all the activity that he's got, all the pictures that he's got, the trail cam footage, video, all kinds of weird stuff. And he looked like he was very approachable. So that night after I saw it, I looked him up online and I gave him a call. He had a phone number there and everything. I called him up. He answered the phone. We were on the phone for 2 hours talking about all of his research. He's sending me pictures of tracks, footprints, all kinds of stuff. A pterodactyl that was in his backyard. It's just crazy stuff. So I'm like, oh my God. I said, well, Lee, I said, I would love to see if we could do an investigation out there. Are we able to do that on your property? He's like, absolutely. Now that was December of 2020, and it wasn't until October of 2021 that we finally got out there. But Lee, he could care less about any of the paranormal stuff because he was a math teacher in Wakanda, Illinois. For like 35 years, he was a math teacher, could care less about the paranormal until he bought this farm from his mother's estate in 2011. And it was a hay farm, and it was a 35-acre hay farm. And he started farming there in 2013, and he had his very first encounter in 2014 with this creature. But the neighbors, his neighbors said, "Oh yeah, by the way, Lee, that's where the creature lives on your property in the back." He goes, "What?" And then Lee goes, "Well, I knew Wisconsin was the home of alcohol, but these guys were straight." So,
Right.
So anyway, a long story short, we did this investigation, 2021. We will never forget it, man. We were in.
Well, what happened? What happened? I'm on the edge of my seat. What happened?
So the night of October 3rd, we're in Lee's barn, and he's showing us all this research, all of the photos, these really crazy things. And outside, it's getting a little cloudy, and it looked like it was going to rain. I thought, oh man, we're going to have to scrub this investigation. But I said, Lee, is it okay if we do an investigation? It was around 8:30. And I said, Lee, could we do the investigation tonight, on the property? He goes, absolutely. Just be careful. He wanted to give me a flare gun, but I didn't take it. And Jimmy, we had no freaking protection, man. We had a flashlight and a radio. This is how stupid I was, because I didn't think we were going to see anything. I didn't think anything about this at all. I thought we were going to go out there, get a great story, talk to some great people, never thinking once that we'd actually run into this creature. And we did that night. So we get out to this. So if your listeners can understand this, it's a hayfield. So it's a big rectangle. So on one side is corn, and this other side where we are on the right-hand side is corn, but it's what Lee calls the bait area. And we were the bait that night. But he put roadkill deer in that area to attract this thing. And he had some really crazy pictures on the trail cam. But anyway, so earlier in the day, I had baited that area with steak bones, which we had the night before. And I was like, man, all day I'm thinking to myself, was this a good idea or a bad idea? So we get down there and we get on the four-wheelers, because we had to take four-wheelers down there because it's a pretty far way to get down there. We get to the bait area. We get off of the four-wheelers, and all of a sudden, it's totally cleared up. No rain, no nothing like that. And it's a beautiful night. Dominic gets off the four-wheeler. So who was with us that night? Sorry, it was Dominic, me, Ellen, and Ellen's son, Scott, who was working the camera. So Dominic gets off the four-wheeler, looks up and says, "What the hell is that?" And here, going over the field, was a solid orb of light. I mean, just a solid orb, not even maybe 1,000 feet above us, going over, silent. And we could see other planes around it. There were other planes around it blinking. This thing was just a solid orb of light. And we're sitting there, and everybody can see this on my video. It's called The Beast of Bray Road, Alive and Well. And we're sitting there going, what the hell is that? We're trying to figure out what that is. We're saying, there's a plane there. There's a plane there. All of a sudden, this thing does a 45-degree angle and blinks right out. And we caught it like right there on video. And it was just the craziest thing. So we were like, oh my God, it's gone. Right after that, we hear a howl in the distance, like very faint howl. This is not a coyote howl or any wolf howl or anything like that. And then we hear one that's closer. And Dominic goes to Ellen, "Are you hearing these howls?" Because she's still looking up at the UFO. And right. She goes, "Yeah, it's coming from over there." As she says that, the third howl, Jimmy, this thing sounded like a man screaming in this field. It was this low guttural scream, growl, yell combination. And I have to put it in context. We had little lavalier microphones, right, to capture the close miking. That's how it was that loud that those little mics picked it up. And on the video, I didn't manipulate any of the audio. I left it raw as it was. And you could hear this thing, man. It was unbelievable. And it definitely was not a coyote. It wasn't an owl, fox, nothing like that. We've had hunters hear it. We've had avid outdoors people hear this thing. They can't, and everybody says the same thing, that it sounds like a man. It sounds like this, like a human type voice. Right after we heard that, we're jumped up. We weren't like, the fear factor was there, but it was like, what are we hearing? What is this? But what really got me was when Dominic said to Scott, shine the light over to where we heard the howl. And now this thing is supposed to be 6 to 7 foot tall. The Beast of Bray Road is supposed to be a 6 to 7 foot tall dog man, walking on a bipedal, walking on 2 legs and sometimes on 4 legs. So we shine the light over to this field, and here, 7 feet up in the corn, man, we see eye shine going like this, like going back. And that was it, man. I said, okay, we got to get the hell out of here, because this thing is telling us, this is my territory. Get out of here. And we weren't going to mess with it because, again, we didn't have any protection, which was ridiculous. You know, I didn't, that was my stupidity. But anyway, we got back to the barn, and Lee couldn't believe we were back so soon. He's like, my God, you know what? And we told him what happened. So here's the other thing, Jimmy, I got to tell you, this whole story is crazy. Earlier in the day, Scott was also working drone. And you know how we have certain areas in the world that have those ley lines and energy grids and things like that, or portals, if you really want to go there. So Scott was with the drone, he was following us into the field as we were doing some reconnaissance and going to check out that bait area. And we were going over the field. As we're going over the field, Scott has to wear virtual reality glasses with these drones. We disappeared off of his screen as we were heading through this part of this field. And he lifted up his goggles, but we were still there, but we had disappeared somehow. And he was all discombobulated. He didn't know where he was. And then he lifted the glasses up, and there we were. But on the screen, we disappeared. And then the night of that investigation, Lee has all of these trail cams going on all at one time. Nothing worked that night. Everything was shut down, and those things were working. He said to me the next day, it was like something came in and shut it down and turned it off. The other thing, which was crazy, the entire town of Elkhorn lost power that night. So it was just insane, man. We had like a trifecta of weird activity. And then after the howls, we also saw a weird mist that came up from the field. And I've heard this mist associated with Bigfoot sightings too. But
what about the orb? Let's go back to the orb. Do you think there's a connection with the orb and the appearance?
What I thought, and I still think, and it's as out there as it sounds, when we were looking at Lee's pictures in the barn, he had these pictures of these orbs in the daylight, middle of the day, with these orbs going over the field. And inside the orb, it looked like it could have been the creature inside these orbs. It looked like it was like a cross. You could see this thing, like this black cross kind of thing inside this round sphere. I thought maybe this thing deposited this creature, whatever it was, out of this orb that we had seen. As crazy as that sounds, that was one of the theories. The other thing was maybe this is coming in and out of portals. I don't know. I mean, Lee's got some crazy pictures of some weird portals and these weird UFO lights going through the woods. At first I thought I'm always trying to debunk everything, right? That's my first thing. I'm like, what is that? Okay. So I see these lights going through the woods, and I'm like, well, maybe they're at the 4-wheelers going through the woods, and that's making it look like they're, because they were going smooth this way. But we went over to those woods, and there was no way you could even you'd have to stop every second to get around the trees. It was that dense. So very, very strange stuff. But that orb just was there, and then it disappeared, and that's when we heard the howl. Was right after that. So there
did you see a shape around the eyes when you saw the eyes do this? Did you see a shape?
No, unfortunately. And I'm going to say, and that's one of the things that we try to do is we're all about truth-based investigating. So no, we did not see a shape or a body of this thing. I wish we would have. I wish I would have taken that flare, the flare gun. I could have lit the whole field up and maybe had seen it, but even with our lights, we couldn't see it. It was just like, and even on Lee's trail cams, I mean, this thing is like an illusion. It's like there, but it's translucent. It's very, very odd.
Yeah, pretty okay. I'm going to back up. You mentioned that Dominic, he had the VR glasses on, and you guys disappeared in the Scott disappeared in the VR. That's pretty strange too, as well. Yeah. I don't want to go into portal or other dimension or what, but it's kind of difficult not to go there when you hear about something like that while something strange and you're in a paranormal area where these things can happen.
And I mean, the whole thing too, with that sound that we heard, the next day we got a call from a state worker that he told me his encounter. He didn't, and he's on camera, but I had his face is obscured because he couldn't really be on camera. But he was telling us that he and a coworker got out on Bray Road. And why they call it the Beast of Bray Road, the people have seen this thing crossing the road and eating roadkill with its hands. They've seen this thing over the years. But they got out of the truck to fix the power lines. And he said he described it as a wild pig sound that didn't pitch. It was monotone, and it just kept going. And that's what they were hearing. It was like a growl. So it was the same kind of idea, or the same sound that we heard, but described a little differently. But it was the same thing. And I let him listen to it, and he said that was the same thing. So
yeah, I've seen that clip, by the way. I've seen that clip of the power line worker, the county worker. I've seen that clip. Yeah, pretty chilling.
Jimmy, I was going to say one thing. The Scott, which we didn't put in the video, and I don't know why I didn't do this. Scott has footage. We were on Bray Road. The whole idea was you're not allowed to be on Bray Road because they'll kick you off of Bray Road if the police come by. They don't want you on the road. We were there for 3 hours, man. Nobody bothered us. And the cops came by and they said, "What are you doing?" I said, "We're doing a documentary on the Beast of Bray Road." He's like, "All right, have a good day." Everything was cool. But Scott put the drone above Bray Road, and there was a solid line going through the corn, because the corn was still up at this point, going over to Lee's property, which is only 0.2 of a mile from Bray Road. It was going over to Lee's property, and this big cutout in the corn going across the road and then going down into the quarry. So we're thinking it's living in the quarry. Something is down there. So, because it's got a food source and it's got a water source. So it was just mind blowing, man.
Yeah, I grew up in that area, and Waukegan, northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin. I grew up in that area, and well, now it's a little more populated, but growing up there in the 60s and 70s, that it was very dense forest, very remote. Once you get out of Chicago, or you get out of Waukegan, you get out of Milwaukee, and you get into that area, the Blue Mounds of southern Wisconsin, that area, it's heavily, thickly forested, and yeah, I could see ultimately something living in there that if it doesn't want to be found, you're not going to be found.
It's not going to be found. We did a follow-up on this about 6 months later, and we went to and thank you, Ellen, again, brought us back out there. But we we did a town hall meeting at the Elkhorn Memorial Library. We had over 140 people showed up, man, to tell their story of seeing this creature. It was unbelievable. And they all described the same thing, Jimmy. It was like on 2 legs, it looks like it's gliding, but on all 4s, it's really fast. And this is the constant story we're getting from people about this thing. And I talked to Lee a couple of months ago, and because I stay in touch with him, he says the screams are still happening out there. So there's something there.
Yeah, I'm looking at Elkhorn here, and from where I grew up, which is Waukegan, the Kenosha area, Lake Geneva, that's just right there, man. Yeah, that's my hood.
And at first, I thought because Wisconsin's pretty flat at some of those areas too, and I thought to myself, is there any woods around here? I mean, how is this? Where is this? Could this thing be? But then getting out on the property of Lee's, I mean, there is a lot of trees, there are a lot of forest.
Yeah, well, that's another part of the geography there in the Ice Age. That was, sheets of ice came down and took all the hills out and flattened everything. And so you can, like the state of Indiana and Illinois, if you look, you can see where the ice stopped, because below that it's all hills.
Wow.
And then there's that section of Wisconsin, the Blue Mounds, that is there. That is these these hills. It's very strange, but yeah, you're right. It's basically flat. There are some hilly areas there too, as well.
Yeah,
but
amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
So what now? Staying with this, and let's stay on cryptids for a minute. It sounds like you're okay with an interdimensional aspect to this, with the Beast of Bray Road and the orbs coming in. But is it possible too that it could be both? That it could be a physical undiscovered species, and then maybe something else that is interdimensional that's going on at the same time?
I totally agree. It could be flesh and blood. That's the whole thing. We always leave these things with more questions than answers. But I mean, to be actually on site and to experience what we experienced, it was mind blowing, man. And the only reason I say portals is because it was just the whole energy when we got down to that bait area. It seemed like the whole energy just changed. Like you could hear the birds and everything up by the barn. But when you get back to this area, it's dead silent. I mean, and even the wind, it was like windy up in this one part of this area. And when we got back down to the bait area, no wind. And it just seems very still right there. And I was using,
but you got a dead roadkill deer there for bait. Yeah. You're asking for trouble. I mean,
oh, I know. Totally. Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. Lee has these pictures, man. You got to see these things. It's unbelievable. See, the trail cams are like 30 seconds timed apart that they take these pictures. He has one picture where you could see the roadkill deer that's in that area, and this black mist, something is forming in this one picture. In the next picture, the mist is gone, but the deer looks like it was moved 8 feet.
No.
So I'm not. I'm not. Yeah. That freaks me out. And I am I'm all for good investigation, but inviting trouble. That's what I'm saying. If I would have saw that moved, I'm out. We saw the pictures from when Lee showed it to us, but I was more like, again, I even then, I'm still like, we're not going to see anything. I'm like, I just went in with that mindset, like we're not going to encounter anything. And going in with that mindset on a lot of these investigations, we do wind up, encountering stuff, even if it's a ghost or Bigfoot or whatever, UFOs. But I'll tell you, man.
You go to the New Jersey Pine Barrens, which already has some of the craziest stories tied to it. We'll leave the Sopranos out of it. That was one of the best Sopranos episodes ever. But the New Jersey Pine Barrens, which again, people think of New Jersey and they're thinking Manhattan. The Pine Barrens ain't that. It's the opposite. And most of New Jersey, by the way, I remember the first time I drove east to west, right? I started in Manhattan, drove through New Jersey, and I thought, how big is this state? It wasn't supposed to be this big. I'm being serious too. I had no idea. It was mostly just remote forest and hills. But you went squatching in the New Jersey Pine Barrens
a week after we got back from Elkhorn, and I dragged Dominic out there too. I said, come on, we're going to hunt this. We got to report a Bigfoot in the New Jersey Pine Barrens. Good friends of mine who are researchers, Eric Spinner and Art Mack. They're Bigfoot researchers in New Jersey. Eric was getting these reports of these, as crazy as this sounds, 5 to 6 foot tall, hairy individuals going into neighborhoods, taking the garbage in the Pine Barrens, taking the garbage out of the neighborhoods, bringing it into the woods, and people are seeing these things. And we never knew if they got pictures or whatever. If there was trail cams, I said, put a trail cam out there, get something on here. But Eric he got hair samples, he's got casted tracks. So he was getting a lot of these things. So that's why we were down there. So there was a recent report. So what we did was we went to the Wharton State Forest, which is right there in the Pine Barrens. And we went about 5 miles in, and the Pine Barrens, it's thousands and thousands of acres of just dense forest. I mean, it's just desolate, nothing. So we get out there. We went 5 miles in on the what they call the fire roads, and God forbid there's a fire, the fire trucks could get in there. And we went on these roads, and we got out of the truck and went about 600 yards into and made base camp. And it's night. It's October, so it's about 7:30, 8 o'clock. It's already dark, and we're sitting in base camp, and we're going over like the protocol for these guys, like how do they do this research, and all of a sudden Dominic and Art are talking, and everybody hears in the background a whoop, and there's nobody back there, Jimmy. I mean,
I've seen this movie, man. I've seen this movie, Eric.
I know, man.
I was like, movie.
What the hell are we doing? Anyway, so we hear this whoop, and I'm like, what? So Eric had these high-powered microphones going, so you could hear it on the microphone. And here's the thing, nothing against those Bigfoot shows. I love the Bigfoot programs that are out there, but I always had to laugh because I always see these guys whooping and hollering, and for Bigfoot, I'm like always saying to myself, is that what they sound like? And I'll be damned if that's not what we heard. And then what was the craziest part? Eric Spinner's wife, Heather, she goes and answers it back, and they're having this conversation back and forth. And it's whooping, and it's all caught on video. People could see it. It's on my video called Pine Barrens Bigfoot on my YouTube channel. And it was the spookiest thing that we ever heard, man. We're sitting there and we couldn't believe it. And then all night we kept seeing like red pinpoints of light, like eye shine, like of this thing. And these guys are getting all kinds of reports like that with these red pinpoints of lights coming down from the trees down to the forest floor, lighting up the forest floor. So here we are in the middle of nowhere. And where we are, it's a cedar swamp. There's no houses. There's nobody back there. So it was just a crazy night, man. We had to get out of it. I mean, we left because Dominic had to work the next day, but he's like, we need to get out of here because it was getting crazy. They stayed long.
Did you guys find any prints or anything?
Never found prints. We never saw any prints. But when we left, Eric and those guys stayed a little longer. They were getting all kinds of tree knocks and all kinds of stuff that night. We also heard a lot of different howls going on too. We tried some tree knocks, but nothing happened while we were there. Now, fast forward about 1.5 years later, we go back to that same area to do a follow-up. Eric didn't want to go there because he's like, well, they had just had wildfires down there in July of that year. This was 2023. And so they had wildfires in July, and the area that we were sitting in, if we were there, we would have been on fire. It was all on fire, but by September, the stuff started coming back again. It's a beautiful cedar swamp. Anyway, so we sat in the same area, the same base camp, and Art, unfortunately, now is going through some cancer treatment, so he's got to take medications for that. And he's sitting there we're sitting there in base camp, and Art goes, guys, I don't know if it's the medications or what, but my heart is really racing right now. As he says that, we hear a branch crack behind us, and we all flip around. The camera person flips around, and there we see a branch just go like this, like something just hit it. And 7 feet up, I see 2 yellow eyes, and for a split second, and then they disappeared. And you could hear all of us on that, and we're all jumped up. And you could hear it clomping back into the swamp. That was crazy. And with that night, we got really jumped up on what the hell is down there. So there's something there. And of course, we've got the Jersey Devil, right? Everybody knows about the Jersey Devil.
Of course.
But I always thought, that the Jersey Devil might have been a misidentification of Bigfoot, because
but those reports go back hundreds of years.
Yeah.
It's not a modern phenomenon.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing. The Jersey Devil, it's always been different reports, but it's either as small as a turkey, or as a medium-sized dog, or as large as a winged horse, something like that. So the reports were always inconsistent. But you're right; those reports go, and people have seen this thing flying around. But there's definitely something else out there that is. That's just that night. It was like it changed my whole perspective on what's out there.
How so? How so?
Whereas I was on the fence with like Bigfoot. I was on the fence with like, is this real? Could there be something? I believe in the Patterson Gimlin film. I think those guys were there at the right time at the right place to get that. But then having had these experiences with this thing. There's something there, and that just the fact that he's getting these hair samples, and he's getting tracks, and also Lee he's got hair samples and stuff, and you put them under the microscope, these hair samples are translucent. There's no medulla, and Lee was trying to get some DNA testing done on these hair samples, but whatever university he was going to, they wanted to charge thousands of dollars to get this stuff done, and he just couldn't do that.
Well, I can get those hair samples done.
Okay.
Let's go back to Lee for a second before we hit the break. Did you say pterodactyl?
Yeah. There's a picture that he's got on his, and I don't know what it is, man. It looks like a pterodactyl. It looks like a dragon pterodactyl. It's got these big wings, big long neck, very strange, and a long tail. And he's got pictures of UFOs. I mean, these weird.
Stay on the pterodactyl for a second. This is where I'm okay with time slips, or because I had the craziest experience there when I was a kid too, as well. Time thing. But when people say, "How come we don't see ghost of Neanderthal?" Right? Well,
right.
Could we be seeing a ghost of a pterodactyl?
That's a great idea.
I'm okay with that. There's been a lot of reports of pterodactyls and thunderbirds over the years, these giant birds and pterodactyls. And I often wonder, okay, lost species, undiscovered, this, that. Okay. All right. Could be. Okay.
Yep.
Could it be a ghost?
That's amazing. I never thought of that. But yeah, it could be. It very well could be. I mean, when we come back, I'm going to tell you, man, we've got some other stuff that'll blow your mind as far as that goes.
Let's take our break here. Our guest tonight. Oh, I just took myself out. Jazz musician.
Hi, everybody. Hello.
Yeah. There you go. It's your show. I'll be right back. Eric, stay right there. Everybody, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to pick up where we are leaving off. It's Ghosts, UFOs, and Cryptids all night with Eric. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? How you doing? Jimmy Church here. Special announcement. Get your Fade to Black t-shirts. That's right. Help support the show. Help support everything that we do over here. We've got 2 t-shirts. We've got 2 ways to get them. Get your Fade to Black t-shirt today. Go Backley Tappy. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut.
Today we're headed to Bolivia, Tiwanaku, Peru, and of course, Pumapunku. Brian, exciting. Thank you so much for everything, my friend.
Always an honor. Right behind us is the sacred river of the Inca that goes past Machu Picchu. So we're going to be driving up to its source at 15,000 feet above sea level and then down to Lake Titicaca.
So today we hit 15,000 feet.
Yes.
Crazy. And you can do it with us. All you have to do is go to hiddenincatours.com. Simple. We've got 2 tours coming up next year, one in June for the summer solstice, right? And then another one right here in November. So hiddenincatours.com. Come and hang out with Brian and I and his amazing team.
Right on.
River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com.
All right. Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church tonight. Eric Mintel is with us. I just sat down in the chair and I looked at the chat and I saw this comment. I'm going to put it up. It says, it's from Kurt. He says, funny. Jimmy wants you to buy his t-shirt, yet he's not even wearing one of his t-shirts. Okay. I have never once worn one of my t-shirts. Nope, not. I can't. The thought of somebody taking a picture of me wearing one of my t-shirts is something that, no, it will. They say never say never. I'm telling you, I will never, ever wear one of my shirts. The thought of somebody, and as I say that, look at Eric.
There it is.
Proud.
I'm proud. I'm a proud
yeah,
paranormal.
I have never done it. I've never put one of my shirts on. I've never done it.
You got to do it, Jimmy. You got to do it, man. You got to break the cycle.
No, I don't know. It's just weird. I've reticent is the right word. I can't do. I can't do it. I don't know why that is. But I have never done it. I've never, I don't think, maybe, I don't know. I'd really have to think about that. Somebody mentioned to me over the weekend, I was on a phone call talking to a friend of mine, and they said, funny fact, Jimmy, The Simpsons have had 770 episodes over 30 years. It's one of the longest running, and the predictions and things with The Simpsons. I said, yeah, that's pretty interesting. And I thought to myself, 770 shows. And yeah, that's a big number. And I thought to myself, we are now approaching 2,200 shows on Fade to Black. 2,200.
That's awesome,
right?
man.
Yeah, it's great. And if you combine all of the coast to coast shows and the TV shows that I've done in the TV series, it's 3,000.
That's
It's
awesome.
a crazy. Well, and I've never worn my T-shirt in any of those. But yeah. I just the reason why I'm bringing all of that up is when we get into these conversations about the paranormal and Bigfoot and ghosts and UFOs, it is ghosts are the one thing that I don't have an answer for. I don't. Science is starting to catch up to what the paranormal may be for us and the rest of the world. But
Right.
I don't have a definition yet as to what a ghost may be. What do you think is going on?
Well, like take Dominic, for instance. He's a spirit medium, right? So he could look at you and see a spirit around you. And it's nothing scary, though. It could be a loved one. It could be a grandfather or grandmother, whoever it is. And it could maybe not even be a family member, but it could be somebody that's around you, protecting you. So I don't know. I mean, it's like I'm probably the most skeptical when it comes to ghosts. But again, having captured orbs and disembodied voices, shadow figures, weird stuff. I mean, I think they're doing experiments now with the light spectrum. Why are we always shooting in night vision? Because night vision is somehow you're able to see these entities better than you would where it's like in the middle of the day or something. They could still be there. We just don't see them. There's that certain veil, and and again, having said that, I just, at the end of the day, people are seeing something. They're seeing something, they're experiencing something, they're connected to something. And it's a very, very thin veil, from here to there. And that's why a lot of these investigations we go on, sometimes the people that are with us on the investigations are bringing spirits with them on the investigation that's kind of messing up, whether it's Dominic is on the investigation or we have another psychic medium, Julie Krause, that we usually work with too. If they're bringing other entities with them that have to be dealt with first before the investigation can continue. So we've had that happen before, which has been incredible. I mean, we did an investigation of a 1759 farmhouse in a place out here in Pennsylvania called Boyertown, Pennsylvania. Good friends of mine, they own an architectural salvage company. We wanted to do this video, and it was a little commercial for them as well. But in the house, Beth, the owner, said she always felt this weird energy up in the upstairs bedroom, and it would just seem like something was trying to communicate with her. Long story short, we did the investigation that night. We get upstairs. Dominic goes in there into the room, and he immediately feels something in there. He even got pushed by this thing. He got pushed off to the side. It turned out that it was the spirit of this woman, Elizabeth, that used to live in this house in the 1700s. So anyway, Beth goes into the room, and I'm in there. I'm using the magnetometer to try to get some electromagnetic, energy. Maybe there's some residual energies here. And anyway, I go right by this dresser, and there was a table, there was a vase on the table, and I went by this thing, and all of a sudden I looked over, and it like the vase moved on the table, and I was looking down on the floor to make sure it wasn't the floor being spongy or anything like that, where it could have moved everything. It was all solid. And I said I said to Beth and Dominic and another person was in there, I said, hey guys, I don't want to alarm anybody, but I think I just saw that vase move. And with that, Beth goes, I did not put that there. That was not there. I know where everything is in this house. And because she's a designer, but she kept getting more and more agitated. And all of a sudden she started getting like hyperventilating. She couldn't even speak. This thing, whatever was in there, we say that it bum rushed her. The spirit bum rushed Beth. And it was like she couldn't speak. So, and we had to get her out of there. I said, well, we got to get her out. She couldn't even get a breath. And she got out to the hallway, and we captured this whole thing on video. So when I was editing the video, and she calmed down eventually out in the hallway, but I said, Beth, you know, I'm a respectable guy. I said, Beth, do you really want that on video? You know, it's pretty devastating. She's cool. She was like, yeah, that's how it happened. We got to keep it on there. You know, we got to show people what happened.
All right, dude, so, I want to understand so the vase,
yeah,
was not whatever. Something that she that she did not put there. Am I understanding it correct? Wow.
Correct. She knows where everything is in this house, and it's a beautiful farmhouse. I mean, it's all finished. It doesn't have all the amenities, like it doesn't have like Wi-Fi. It's got your electrical, but it doesn't have central air or anything like that. It's just got your basic bare bones. But she knows where everything is because she's a designer by trade as well. But she knew that was not there. That was not put on that table. And that's what really freaked her out. And
when stuff like that happens, you can't see it here. My cameras are stationary. Okay. So, but you can kind of see around the studio here.
Yeah.
And in this shot here, okay, you see that Marshall lamp?
Yep.
Okay. That's my guitar workbench. That's where I work on guitars right there.
Okay.
But that's an L-shaped corner with, and there was a toolbox and some other, but underneath that, there's some toolboxes underneath, and then in the corner there is black foam core board that I build stuff out of. Anyway, so but the toolboxes under there, there's like 10 sheets of foam core that's been cut. And so anyway, so that's sitting. I come in the studio one day, and I sit in this chair, and I look, and over here, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah. Okay. See that I Want to Believe poster?
Yeah.
You know,
yep.
Right. X-Files. Okay. Yep. So that's a bunch of guitars, but in the middle of that is that's a big piece of thick wooden acoustic material that's over the wood, and that's mounted over this window here, soundboard.
Okay.
And that poster is mounted to it. Okay. So I come into the studio, and I sit in this chair, and I notice that poster is down. And I was like, what? Okay. So I don't want to get into that whole thing, but that was strange to me, and I had to remount it, and how it fell down, I don't know, but the poster was down, and that kind of freaked me out. So I fixed that. And then I spin around here in the studio. I'm sitting in the chair. I was like, wow, okay, I fixed that. And I look, and that poster, the foam core that is in the corner underneath, it's deep, it's buried, and it's held up by is sitting in the middle of my floor.
Oh God. Wow.
Yeah. And I'm staring, and I swear, and all that is holy. Every hair on my body stood straight up, and I'm looking at the foam core sitting in the middle of them, and I'm looking at the tool. I'm like, how, what? And so now back to this vase. When I hear stories like that,
yeah.
I don't dismiss them. I'm telling you that foam core walked out into the middle of the floor, and
I believe you. This stuff happens, man. I mean, I don't know how, but it happens somehow. And again, like I said earlier, there's people that are connected to these spirits. And look, I always think of it this way: if there's a place being haunted, those spirits liked being there. I don't think it's anything like Hollywood wants to make it scary and everything, but I think for those situations, they want you to know that they're still there. People want to go investigate graveyards. Sometimes there's nothing there. It's like they want to go to places that they enjoyed. It turns out that farmhouse also used to have a pub in it. Used to have like a pub back downstairs. So, and that's why a lot of these entities are seen at pubs, restaurants, bed and breakfasts, a lot of these historical places. So with that particular, the vase and what she, happened to her, it's amazing. I mean, we did it, and then we did another follow-up there again, and same thing happened, but we got more of the story. Dominic, he unfolded a lot of the story, and a lot of what happened.
Die in the house?
Well, yes. The weird thing is that this woman, the weird story, her husband wound up having an affair with one of the workers that was on the farm on this homestead.
Say no more. Say no more.
Had a child with him.
Here we go. Right.
But she had a child with him, right? But that child, he died. But the child that he had with the worker lived. Well, this whole thing caused so much friction, and this is what this energy is over there, and the child's buried on the property. So that's it gets even weirder, man. It's getting weirder. So we're trying to get back over there to do another investigation, because it's just been some really weird stuff going on. But I think Beth, again, being connected to this stuff, Beth has got some kind of connection to UFOs too, because I'll tell you, I got a report from her and her friend Ty. They were in the middle of the Bahamas. This is just May of last year. They were on a Carnival cruise, middle of the Bahamas, 12:30 at night. This is the weirdest report I've ever heard. You might have heard of this. I don't know. They're out on the deck looking at the water. Everything's pitch black. All of a sudden they look up. They see what she says, she describes only about 300 feet above the water, what look like cartoon splats. You know what a cartoon splat looks like a splat? Well, sure. Different colors going like this, like flying around, like they're playing in the air, but tweeting at the same time, like this high-pitched electronic weird like squeal. She says tentacles are coming out like this and then going like this, coming around, tentacles, and then this. Well, they go in to go get, Ty went in to go get the phone because he didn't have his phone with him, of course. Goes in to get the phone, comes, and she grabs him before he could get it and goes, look, look, look. And here an orange orb comes out of the water, hovers for a second, and takes off after those two things that were just flying around. And they were just gobsmacked, man. I mean, they could not believe it. Well, the reason why I'm telling you this is because there was another report of a ship captain that they also had like a flying jellyfish, a hovering, what looked like a jellyfish in the middle of the day going right over the ship. And then they caught it on video. And it was this thing with tentacles. It was just very weird. And then it went right into the water. So now I'm starting to think, Jimmy, are these UFOs that we're seeing, are they even ships, like metal, like, or could they be some kind of life form?
Yeah. I think that's part of it. I agree with you. What my take is, we're seeing the metal ships. We're seeing interdimensional stuff. We're seeing space travel that is of some technology we don't understand. I think that we're also experiencing life forms that exist here that may or may not be even in our plane of existence,
Right.
that appear and in front of us for a split second because it's in our frequency range of reality, and then
Right.
goes back to where they are. The ocean is a big place, and people talk about it all the time. But what you're describing now, which I've heard stuff like this before, but that's like Tuesday on the ocean.
Yeah.
It is. It is. It's
Yep.
such a big, crazy place,
Oh, yeah.
is so undiscovered and unknown, that I,
That's what I
and here's the other part, Eric. And what if you want to hide, if you're coming from another planet and you're coming here and you want to just hang out and be undetected and do your thing, you're going to do it in the water.
right.
Absolutely. Wouldn't you think that that's a pretty good
Oh,
hiding
yeah.
place?
No doubt. I mean, I always thought, look, with the frequency of these sightings, that they've got to be somewhere close by. Why not the ocean? Catalina Island, you see a lot of UFO activity out there. But I think that they've been in the ocean, and even look at the alien descriptions of these things. They look aquatic. They look like they could be like fish. So and then you see a lot of USOs over the years that now that a lot of these pictures are being declassified. I think like the 1971 USS Trepang periscope picture of this USO. I mean, a huge triangle coming out of the water. So they're there. They've been there for probably millennia. I always thought
My friend, his name's Alex Mistretta. He lives here in Southern California. Great friend of mine. He was the one that broke the Trepang story.
Oh,
And
wow. Cool.
he stumbled upon the magazine and got the images, wrote up a story, came on Fade to Black. We talked, but he was at my house. It's weird, synchronicities like this, but we were sitting on my back patio, dinner party, and he's telling us about this. And he shows me the images that he had from the magazine on his phone. I was like, holy crap. Well, the story, nobody knew about it. He wrote it up, did it, brought him on Fade to Black, and that thing took off.
Yep.
And it took off because those images were U.S. Navy images. They're
Right.
not from, you know what I mean? And they came
Bill-
from an
they're not from
old
Bill-
French magazine. Yeah, it was an old French magazine.
Wow.
That for some reason, that story just didn't resonate, didn't catch on. The magazine was published in the early 70s with those images. Long story short, I think that people, when they looked at that, you try to go and look at old Navy images of targets or whatever that they may have. There was nothing similar to that. And nobody popped up from the Navy going, dude, that's what we were doing. We were, shooting guns. Those are targets, or that's this or this. That never happened. There was
Right.
never any Navy balloons or whatever that could have been. If that's what it was, it was never quite debunked. And I think those images stand on their own, don't you?
Oh yeah, totally. And I think even back then, they were probably told not to say anything, but when you've got the Navy pilots now that are like, seeing these Tic Tac UFOs and you have to take their testimony seriously, because they've got a lot to lose as far as career goes, but that's what they saw. And at least, like I said earlier, it's like at least the government now is giving a format for these things to be heard, because they're, again, I don't care who it is. Everybody's had some kind of experience like that. UFOs, my girlfriend and I mean, unbelievable sighting. This was before I even started the show or anything. Again, loving UFOs and everything and loving paranormal. But we're going over this bridge outside of an area out here in Bucks County, New Hope, Pennsylvania, going over this bridge. She had rented a farmhouse at the time. and we're going over the bridge, and in her car, and we're going over, and out of the corner of my eye, I see 5 orange orbs just appeared out of nowhere, and they were only about 300 feet above the bridge. And again, we're going over the Delaware River, and these orbs appeared. And in my rational mind, I'm like, okay, well, there's a restaurant down there. Maybe they're sending off Chinese lanterns or something. I'm trying to make sense out of it in the few seconds that was there. But it was a Wednesday night. It was like January. It was cold. Nobody's getting married. And that wasn't what it was. And I'm trying to fumble for my phone to get a shot. And I was able to get one shot of it. But before that, the flash went off in the car. But she was seeing this. And she said they looked like they did a search pattern, like over the river. And then one by one, they just disappeared, one by one. And I was able to get one shot before it disappeared. But it was amazing, man. And I felt like, wow, I cannot believe we saw that. And we still talk about it. But then I've seen some of the shows that they have these orange orbs that are seen. And I've gotten some footage from people that it's the same thing that we saw. I mean, we just recently had the huge drone situation going on over here in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. These were definitely not drones. These were things that were there and they disappeared. They weren't flares or anything like that. Some of the stuff that people are seeing are probably governmental drones out here, but some other things are not. And these things are changing shape and weird stuff. So there's a whole nother dynamic that we're looking into as well.
Well, and you mentioned this was 20 years ago too, as well, before drones were drones.
Yeah. I mean, this is like, no, it was like 2016. So this was like, 9 years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Same situation.
But still, yeah. Before people are seeing this stuff. But I mean, it was amazing, man. And then right up the road, a guy, says to me, hey, we've been getting this weird like light that's going over our house, like almost on a nightly basis for like the last year. Can you guys come up and do an investigation? I'm like, yeah, I'll be right up. So we went up to his house, Mitch and Robin Sherman, and these guys are great. But he showed me a picture of what he's got. And it's basically, I got reports of this low, hovering, brightly lit object, multiple lights, like points of light shooting off of it. And he's showing me a video of the same thing. And it's on my video, UFOs over Bucks County. But Robin, his wife, you've probably heard of this too. She had when they saw this thing, she had a finger-sized point of light. Now, we know light continues, right? This was a finger-sized point of light, came right up to her face and then shot off. And I've heard these situations where these orbs of light, they're coming up to people. And what are they doing? Are they scanning this person? Are they looking at what is that? And she was calling to Mitch to come out because this thing was right there. He didn't see it, but she saw it and it took off. So, I've had other reports like that of these orbs coming up and being in houses. They come through the walls and then they just exit the other side. So there's another reality that,
what is it about Bucks County? I mean, I've heard Bucks County mentioned 100 times, if not 1,000 in my life. Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
Jimmy, you got to come out here, man. I mean, you would love this area. I mean, it's a very musically, very artistic area out here, but no, I mean, it's like for years. I mean, there's another entity out here called the Lady in White. We just did an investigation of this. Now, this Lady in White I didn't realize this, but she's not only been seen in Bucks County, she's been seen all over the world. And it's like, I had my own encounter with this entity in 1997. And I don't know why I didn't put the 2 and 2 together, but my father had the same encounter with this person, with this woman in about 1975. Now, my dad, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. My dad was very much a partier back in the 70s. So he swears this particular night he was sober and he came home, and we lived again, going back to the Delaware. We lived across the street from the Delaware River in an area called Upper Black Eddy, which is in Bucks County. It's Upper Bucks County. And we lived in this little duplex. We were on the bottom and there was somebody up at the top. Anyway, it's about 2:30 in the morning. He's sitting there cooking a steak on the little hibachi, and he's looking at the river, and it's all quiet. It's clear night. And he told the story for years that he saw this white figure on the water floating down. And as his eyes are adjusting to it, he's like, my God, it's a woman. And here he could see the long flowing robes, the hair. What made this really crazy was from a quarter of a mile away, when she turned to look at him, he said her face came right up to his face and freaked him out. And then turned, went back on the river, and then floated down the river. And as she was floating, she said, and he could hear these words echoing through the valley, I'm going home. I'm going home.
Not cool.
Not
cool. Not cool.
He told that story for years. And that's probably one of the things why I got into the paranormal, because of this story. But then on his deathbed just a couple of years ago, I said, Dad, did that really happen? And he said, it really happened. It really happened. So, and then my encounter, this will freak you out too, Jimmy. This is crazy, man. It freaked me out, but I looked at it as something else. But I was going to a gig, 1997, November of 97. I'm going to a gig and it's night, because the time changed. So of course it's dark early. This is about 6 o'clock or so. I'm going down this road in Bucks County, heading down this road called Pine Lane. I'm going at a pretty good pace because I'm late for the gig, and I'm going and going. And all of a sudden a deer runs out in front of me and bam, I hit it. And I felt terrible, man. I was like, oh my God, slam the brakes on. And we're sliding like at least 50, 60 feet. Stop the car, get out of the car. And I'm looking at this poor deer and I'm feeling awful. And I'm looking at this thing. It's in the headlights. And I also just, for everybody that knows, I play piano. In the woods behind me, a woman's voice says, how's your hands? And I'm like, I turn around and here there was a lady in white comes out of the woods, gets in front of my car. And then how when if there's somebody standing in front of a car at night and they're standing in front of the headlights, their body looks like obscured, like kind of blurry on the edges. That's what she looked like. And here's the thing, Jimmy, she reached down, took this 200-pound deer by the ear and dragged it off the road like it was nothing.
What? Were you doing the puff on the way to the gig?
I've never smoked pot ever in my life. But this, I'll tell you,
the lady in white comes out of the woods and pulls the deer off of your car and off of the road. And you watched this happen.
It was on the road. It was in front of the car on the road. She just dragged it off the like it was light as a feather. Then
how do you tell your friends about that?
And
how do you tell your friends
here's
about
the thing, though. I couldn't see her. I could see it was a shape there. I couldn't see a face. But I hear her words and she's going, you better get off the road. Get out of here. Get off the road. So I left. I didn't say a thing, man. I was stunned. I was just kind of like, didn't say anything.
Yeah.
So I get to the gig, tell the guys what happened with the deer. I didn't tell them anything about the lady, but I told them about the deer. And I might have even mentioned maybe something that this woman came out of nowhere. And then I went back the next day and the deer was gone, but that could have been taken by Parks and Rec people. But what I thought, again, in my rational mind, I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe there was a house or something back there that somebody lived there, and they're the ones that spooked the deer out. They were in the woods, and that's how I hit it.
Fair enough.
Nope, no houses, nothing but woods. I mean, it's been built up since, but back then it was nothing but woods.
So what do you think happened? What do you think you saw? What do you think the experience was?
I saw something. I always said that it was my guardian angel, and I looked at it like that. And I think there's been certain times in my life that if that has happened, that I maybe not been consciously aware of it, except for that particular night. But to be in the middle of nowhere, and the weird thing, why would she say, how's your hands? That was just so...
here. Okay. How many times, Eric, do we have to hear the stories from our parents don't go in those woods.
Yeah.
Stay on the, there's a crazy woman that lives, do not go. And it's over and over and over again. And then, you've had this experience, and it just makes you wonder about
Right.
the folklore and where the origin is for these stories.
I always say there's always a bit of truth to the folklore.
Mm-hmm.
It had to start somewhere. Somebody had to have this experience in order for this story to be told.
I've never had a lady in white story. I've got crazy shit. I do. I don't have that. I don't know if okay. So when the paranormal stuff started here in the house, I got I have a pretty gnarly security system. Okay, I do. It's gnarly. I live alone. I want to feel good. Okay, I want to feel comfortable, and plus, I have taken safety measures here at the house too, as well, to make me feel comfortable. But putting that aside, one of the things that I have is I have a time lapse camera system inside the house.
Mm.
So now I've never watched it. Okay. And the reason why I've never watched it now, I have it activated. It records in the cloud. It also records on a card. And I have 2 cameras, and so it'll record 72 hours time lapse, and you can watch it in whatever time speed playback that you want. Okay, so, and then after it does the 72 hours, it resets and records another 72 hours. Okay, so, but here's the deal. I've never watched it. Why? I don't want to see anything.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. If my alarm system is tripped while I'm not home and that system is running, okay, I'm going to go back and watch it. But if the security system hasn't tripped, then I'm not going to sit and watch a ghost wandering around. I don't know. No.
Yeah.
No. But I do
Not
have
at
it,
all.
and it's always recording. But I've never had. I don't want to see the lady in white.
No. Well, neither did we. But we wound up just doing another. We just released a video the other day, which we did this investigation of the lady in white because a friend of mine had the same encounter. He had a similar encounter. He was on a road called Cuddaloosa Road, which is, again, it's in Bucks County. And he was this was like the late 80s. He was going down this road in his brother's VW and going at a pretty good clip. And it's a really crazy road. I mean, it's a beautiful area back there. But he was coming up to the bridge and went over the bridge. And this woman appeared out of nowhere. He said wearing a white dress, white bonnet, and he thought he hit her. He thought he hit her. He went right through, and he stops the car, shuts it down, and yells out the window because he thought there's something. He's like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" Hears nothing, and then got the hell out of there. But so we went to that area and did this investigation. And Jimmy, I'll tell you, man, we caught some weird stuff there, man. We got an orb that interacted with the flashlight that I left on the bridge, and you could see on the video what happens there. We also got hit with a wall of heat. It was a huge temperature inversion that happened. Like, you're talking like a portal type situation. It was a weird temperature inversion that happened right there at the bridge. And oh my God, it was just crazy. So people go check it out.
Yeah. Well, okay. I'm going to tell you the short version of a pretty long story. But this is why when I hear things like this, I don't discount them at all. I was 18 years old, 19 years old, 18. I got my first apartment. And on Sundays in Indianapolis, and on Sundays, I lived alone, and I would get in my little Toyota Corolla wagon and drive. I would just drive on a Sunday morning and just go out and then come back. and for a few hours. And on this one day I did that. So I drive out, but this is where I grew up. This is my neighborhood. I know every street, every house, everybody, every family. And it's on the east side of Indianapolis. And I'm coming back from one of these drives, and it's in the summer, beautiful Sunday afternoon. And I turn right at this Dairy Queen in my neighborhood. All right. Turn right. And I'm heading up the road, and I'm driving through this clump of trees that I've driven through, hundreds of times. And off to my left, I'm driving. I'm alone. I see this white house, little white house with an in-ground pool in the front yard and a for rent sign, right? Ooh, and I went, what? And I turn around and I go back, for rent, little tiny house with an in-ground pool. I'm 18. It's party time, right? It's summer. I'm like, so I park my car. I walk up to the house, and I see off to my left, there's a chain link fence around the yard. And I see on the other side of the chain link fence, like 8 gravestones, like a family plot. It's on the other side of the fence. And I see that. Well, check this out. I see that, and I look at the in-ground pool. I go, I can deal with the graveyard. I can, that's no issue there. So I go up and I look in the windows, and I see this fireplace. It's small. It's like 1 bedroom with a tiny, nice though. So I go back to my car and I jump in, and I'm driving to my friend's house, and I pick them up. I pick up like 3 of my friends, and I go, man, you got to see this house, man. I can't believe it. It's right over here on other German Church Road. And dude, what are you talking about? I said, I got to show it. It's for rent, man. It's got an in-ground pool in the front yard. And okay, it's by the Dairy Queen. All right, okay. So we're driving, get back up on the road, and we're driving into the trees, and the house isn't there.
Oh my God.
And and I was like, what? And I go up to the Dairy Queen, I make a U-turn, and I'm like, we're in the trees, and my friends are talking shit. You made it up. Dude, I'm telling you, it was there. And we drive through the trees again, and we make another U-turn. I'm like, what? The house is gone.
Wow.
It's gone. And there's only like 2 streets out there, and there's only 1 Dairy Queen, right? And now how do I so last year, no, like 6 months ago, I was back in Indianapolis. I've done this a few times, but I just recently did this 6 months ago. I went looking for that house again, back in my old neighborhood, and rented a car, and I just drove all through. No. Now, the story sounds like it's not true, like it's made up. It happened. So when I hear things like this, and I just think to myself of my own experiences, and how many times have people had these very same experiences, but they don't talk about them.
Oh yeah. Oh, totally. There's people that just will not talk about it at all. And that's probably because of fear, just out of fear. I mean, there's also people that will have nothing to do with the paranormal whatsoever. They don't want to hear about it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to, and that's their choice. But it's like, it's usually from a place of fear. And I don't doubt that, Jimmy. I mean, the stuff that's happened to you, that's happened to us, happened to other researchers out there. I mean, there's things that really some things you just can't explain. But it all begins back in that area where there's always a little bit of truth to the folklore, and it had to start somewhere. Somebody had
what do
to
you make? Okay, here's a weird connection for me. And I don't, sometimes I sound like I've just lost my mind, but let's throw something out there. The Mandela effect. The Mandela effect, it can't be that billions of people, billions on this planet, have faulty memory, that all remember. We're talking not 10 or 15 people. We're talking about vast swaths of the population that remember the past differently than it is presented today. So
Right.
could it be that a parallel world just like ours that's sitting off here, physics says it's so, right? The multi-worlds theory that, that goes on infinitely on both sides of us. And it's you and I, Eric, in that something's just a little bit different. But you and I are doing this show, but we're wearing blue shirts instead of black, right? Whatever.
Yeah. Oh,
Could
I
it
totally
be that you know what I mean? And that just intersects with us momentarily, like that house.
Oh,
That house
God.
was real. It was there. I walked up on it, but the lady in white, right? She's
Yeah.
real, but just for a moment,
For the
crossed
moment.
the veil into this existence. And maybe that's what the Mandela effect ultimately is. Nobody's crazy. We don't have some deep-rooted psychosis, or we're faulty memories, or whatever it may be. I don't know. But that is something that would answer a lot of questions, don't you think?
Absolutely, man. And look at the UFO sightings. Like, look at some of these things, maybe like you had said earlier, time slips, and again, it could be this thing where these things are coming into our reality at just a certain time, and look at like the Lonnie Zamora incident in 1964 in New Mexico, where he saw this UFO. And other people that have seen these things, and they land, or they're just there for the moment and then they disappear. There could be, like you said, there could be other realms. There's other swaths of reality, maybe crisscrosses at a certain, time frame. I mean, you could really go down the rabbit hole with a lot of those theories, man. But that's one of the things why I love the paranormal. It's just fascinating that way, because it will never get. Hopefully, one day, that's what we're doing this for, is to try to get whatever the truth is there, but to try to get some kind of definitive answer. What is going on, and what are we experiencing? And I don't know. I mean, with the UFO situation, we haven't really seen anything malevolent, so to speak, right? I mean, maybe when you get into the alien abduction, yes, maybe that's something's going on. Obviously, people taken against their will is not a good thing. But as far as what the UFOs and the aliens are doing, I don't think that there's anything malevolent as far as like destroying the world or anything. I think they're here to monitor us, to watch what we're doing, and maybe even to, I don't know, maybe just we're trying to help their species. That's another thing. And again, are these things even machines? Are they a new type of life form that we just haven't figured out yet?
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. I'm
Yeah.
okay with that. I had a caller. This is about 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Had a caller call in, and she told this story, and it's always stuck with me. It was just amazing. She was on a family vacation in West Texas, in the station wagon thing, right? The family. And they pull over at a rest stop to have a picnic. And she says that while her mom and dad were setting up the picnic table at this rest stop, she wanders off and comes down, and there's a river in front of her. And she reads on this sign that is there about the wagon trains. All right. And so she's reading the sign, and she looks across the river, and it says there that at this point of the river, and she looks across the river, and she sees a wagon train parked, a bunch of covered wagons, horses, families, kids playing, fire, smoke, cooking, horses, right? The whole thing. And she thought to herself, dang, that's a really good reenactment. And she stood there and watched it for a while, and was just convinced about how good these actors were. She runs back to her family. You got to see this wagon train reenactment down by the river. This is amazing. And so she grabs the family, walks up. You know what happened. There's nothing there.
Nothing there.
It's that she's like trying to tell her family what she had just saw, but it was all gone. Now, what I believe the facts of the case. I do. But what happened? What did she witness?
I go back to that. People are picked to experience these things and to see these things for whatever reason, psychologically, physically, whatever. I think they're just picked to be able to have the ability to see these and to be able to picture these events and to see these things as they're unfolding. And that's the greatest mystery right there. How is this happening? But I truly believe that. And that's why. And then you're like, then she goes back and it's not there, and then trying to convince her parents that it was there. Oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah. And that's why people don't talk about this stuff.
Oh yeah.
They'll tell me these stories, they'll call in, and this is a safe place, right? And I mean, I've got my crazy shit that I share, and I know how crazy it sounds.
Oh yeah.
The disappearing house,
that's crazy. That's crazy.
I am just as perplexed about that as anybody else that listens to the story. I have gone back and examined Google Earth for foot after foot after foot after foot of everything around, just looking for anything. I have driven back to that site when it first happened. This was 1982 or something. I was 18. It was 82. I drove back there all the time. This is my neighborhood. Since then, over the years, because now that's 40 years ago, 42, 43 years ago. But yeah, I have driven back there and up and down. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. This is the craziest story. And not only is it crazy, everybody that was involved as a witness of this, we have gotten together many times over the years, and as recently as last summer, all of us together talking about this incident. And so this is what happened. We had this little spot that we went to in high school and after high school out in the cornfields. And we called it the electric company. And it was out in these cornfields. But we could go out there and park and smoke weed and drink beer, right? Teenagers, and not be seen by anybody. And in this clump of trees. And it was it was in a cornfield in the middle of these cornfields. And we called it the electric company because in front there were these, and you can see it on Google Earth, this chain linked massive transformers with these power lines coming in. But in front of it was this grass field, and then all around it are cornfields for miles. Okay, very remote. Okay, so we're sitting out there. I'm sitting behind the driver's wheel, and all this fog had rolled in. And so you couldn't see past the hood of the car. And we're in there just, smoking and drinking and listening to Black Sabbath, whatever. And there was like 6 of us in the car, 3 in the front seat, 3 in the back seat. It was a Buick Electra deuce and a quarter, big boat, right? Okay. Right. 2 bench, you know what I'm talking about, 2 couches for seats.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it was 3 and 3. And I'm sitting there, and then out of the fog in the middle of this cornfield, remote area, the sticks of Indianapolis, comes this dude. And he walks out of the fog, and he's black, and he's got a black hood, and I can't see his face. And he comes up, and I pee. I mean, I just stampede. And I'm looking, and he comes up out of the fog and is standing at the window,
Oh man.
which is rolled up. And I'm like, and McLeister, who's sitting next to me in the car, is screaming. And McLeister's like 6'6". Ah! And we're all freaking. And I'm sitting there. I can't look at him. And he knocks on the window. And I roll it down like that far. And he leans down and he says these words. Have you seen my dog? No.
Oh.
And I roll up the window and everybody's screaming in the car. Ah! And what'd he say? What'd he say? And I said, have you seen my dog? And he turns around and walks back into the fog, into the cornfield.
Wow.
Yeah. And the next day, and I mean, car gets started, we split. The next day we went back in the day, and this is our neighborhood. I already know what's out there. We've seen Children of the Corn. This is the movie, right? And I'm just looking at the miles of cornfield. There's no houses. There's nothing. There's nothing out there. What was this dude doing? I don't know. Now,
What was looking for his dog?
have you seen my dog?
That's
so
crazy.
me and my friends, again, all of us that were there, right? We were all together last summer at my friend Kurt's house. Kurt was in the back seat, right at Kurt's house. And McLeister, who was sitting in the front, McLeister insisted at this party last year that we were all outside of the car when this guy walked up. And the rest of us that were there, no, dude, we were all inside the car. Church was up, and that. And Church rolled down the window and goes, no, man, we were outside of the car when he came up and said, have you seen my dog? And and
there's the Mandela
is adamant that we were all outside of the car.
Wow.
And we weren't. At least my version of it, and everybody else's version, was that we were inside the car when he walked up and I rolled down the window. McLeister insisted that we were all outside of the car. How we remembered it all differently. Yeah. But it happened.
It happened.
So what do you do with that story? I don't know, man.
You go back to the same spot and wait for the fog to roll in and see if it happens again.
Man, I can't tell you how many times we went back to that spot and we would all be there. No, and we would tell a story to somebody new.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's exactly how he sounded too. Have you seen my dog?
That's crazy.
I couldn't
Wow.
see his face. He had a hood.
Yeah.
It was bad. It was like right out of some, what was that guy's name? Shyamalan.
Oh yeah, M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, M. Night Shyamalan, Ding Dong. Yeah. It was one of his. It was like that. It was crazy.
Hey, I had dinner at M. Night Shyamalan's house, by the way.
Did you really?
We had dinner back in it was May of 2016. Long story short, yeah, it was amazing, man. He lives in right outside of Philadelphia, and friends of ours won something that you could have a dinner with M. Night Shyamalan. And when we got to the house, there was a thing Ravenwood, and I was like, "Oh my God, is that an homage to Abner Ravenwood from Indiana Jones?" And he's like, "You're the only guy that got that." I played some piano for him that night, and of the guests and stuff after dinner, and he goes, "Dude, you are awesome." I was like, it was a great night, man. Him and his wife are phenomenal people. But yeah, it's like you were in a movie, Jimmy. You were right in the middle of an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
And I just look back at that, and I'll say it once again. I think all of us have had experiences like that, and you just go back and we put them in a box on the shelf, and I forget about them.
Exactly. When you're younger, you have those experiences, and then as life gets in the way, you forget, you not forget, but you just, like you just said, you put them in a shelf, you put them in a box, forget about it, and don't talk about it anymore. But at least we're talking about it tonight, which is a beautiful.
Absolutely, man. I got to sit in with your quartet one night.
You got to come out, man, for sure.
I'll bring my 335, my 175.
You're welcome anytime, man.
Man, I would absolutely dig that, man. Dude, take the A train and take 5 and just bust through all of that stuff.
Take the A train. Check it out. We do the bridge a half step up. Check that out.
Really? Talking about mysterious voices earlier, this popped up. I'm just going to bring it up. You know who really takes me to the dreamscape nightmare? Now, I say nightmare in a spooky way. Chet Baker.
Oh yeah, I could see that. That's a torture. That was a torture. Yep.
Gifted beyond words. And there are, a trumpet is a trumpet is a trumpet. A mouthpiece is a mouthpiece is a mouthpiece. But like Miles, Chet Baker had a sound.
Yeah.
And piano players, you would think that, and I hope you appreciate my take on this, you would think that you can only hit a piano key one way. Mm-hmm. It's going to make a sound. You listen to something, like McCoy Tyner, or, you listen to some of these gifted piano players, they had a way of pulling their sound out of a hammer hitting a string.
Oh, amazing. Kenny Barron, all those guys.
Oh, yeah. Yes. That's a perfect example. Yeah.
I mean, we get, that's, and that's the thing, not only Brubeck, but like, Oscar Peterson, Bill Evans, Chick Corea, all these guys, gave us such like incredible directions too. You could pick Bill Evans out of a crowd of piano players. Oh, no doubt. Oh, for sure. His voicings are just legendary. I mean, incredible. But yeah, next time you're out here, man, look us up, because you'll and bring your instrument. So yeah, we'd have a blast.
Perfect night on the show, Eric. Thank you so much. I look forward to our next conversation, and the links for you are down below. We've got everything there. Thank you so much, my friend. Perfect night.
Absolutely. Peace. Thank you so much, Jimmy. What a pleasure, man. Thank you, guys.
The absolute very best. Eric Mintel. And so his book, Eric Mintel Investigates, Case Investigations, the links for that and his website are below on our website and throughout our social media. All right. And with that wraps another night on the show. Tomorrow night is our once a month AMA AJA, where you can ask me anything. So until tomorrow night, all I've got is go Backley Tappy. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go Backley Tappy.